This is Joshua Badu and Jeremiah Tia, your pastoral performance coaches, and you're listening to the 100x Dudes podcast, your weekly dose on how to 100x your life. And today we have a very special guest, Joshua Vieira. I hope I'm saying that correctly, and even if I'm saying it wrong, I'm sure he won't correct me on camera. But thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Thanks, Joshua. I'm glad to be from Indonesia, even though I'm a Brazilian, being part of JJ, coaching podcast.
Yeah, I remember when we first met, I said a friend of mine, she's a fashion designer, but she says anyone who has been to many different countries, she just calls that person a universal citizen. So when I look at you now, every time I hear about, you're in Indonesia or in Brazil or the places you've been, I just think to myself, you're a universal citizen.
I think it's a privilege and responsibility. That's where not only those who have been on the road for a long time, even younger emergent leaders, they are already picking up that point. It's fasting forward. I think it's a privilege and gives a lot of channels of communication and connecting with people from all over the world.
100%. I know that even before this, and we'll introduce Joshua and all his credentials in just a moment, but even before we'll talk about how connected the world is in this global economy for young people and for old people. But even now, people, when they hear me speak, they'll be thinking like, oh, is he American? Is he from Britain? And is he Australian? Everything's just one big melting pot. And it's a crazy time, but I'm so glad, me and Jeremiah are so glad you're here today. We thank you so much for doing this for us.
I'm glad to be here, guys, and I'm glad also to connect with your audience. I believe there's so many people who are also going through same experience, and it's just a journey that we can learn from one another.
100%. Well, just to introduce a bit about Joshua. So we do know he has a very long list of credentials. He's been around the block. He's seen a lot. But we know that he's a life coach certified in Brazil in coaching, master in leadership development by ATC, NGO field director in Timor-Leste. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Cross-cultural leadership development by the CFNI in USA, plus more. And also the founder and a main runner of Latin Gate as well. And I know you're doing great work for helping the underprivileged emerging leaders in today's day and age. How does it feel to take on that mantle of trying to develop this generation of emerging leaders?
I think is a season that we hear God, giving us a chance as a global leaders to see locally. I think all the experience that I've been accumulate through my career, I've been overseas for 30 years, 16 years in Southeast Asia. So it gives me like an opportunity. It's a momentum that we have as leaders to contribute for the growth of these new emerging global leaders. So in one, something that we can do today, we could never do 10 years, 5 years ago. And that is exciting.
Definitely. If you don't mind sharing, so what are the main nations that you're finding a lot of these emerging leaders are coming from that you seem to be working with a lot? Is there a certain pattern in the countries that you seem to be gravitating towards this program that you're doing as well?
All right. I mean, just to to give a perspective for our audience today, Latin Gate is being established in and being running for the last 4 years. But the last 3 years, we've been working with emerging leaders, less privileged emerging leaders in Bandung, Indonesia, people that are nationals from different provinces and states in Indonesia, and also people that came from different nations that are working or studying in Indonesia. So basically, we have Indonesians from all over the nation. As you know, Indonesia is 17,000 islands. So we get a lot of people from different backgrounds, ethnic groups, language, and so forth. But also internationals, like we get people from Uganda, Tanzania, Tajikistan, Morocco, Palestine, where else? Tanzania, where with several of them, Burundi, all these people there, they have one thing in common. How can I design myself in this new reality of 4th industrial revolution? And moving from that common ground, how can young people coming out of university, they can create a new way of networking and create their own job. That's where we are picking up and being part of.
Yeah, I remember when we even first initially discussed this, which was really sparking me and Jeremiah's desire to talk about this deeper. You're sharing me about the charts you're showing about the different privilege, I guess, demographics that you're seeing in different areas of the world, and how you've chosen to tap into the I guess those three stages. Do you mind actually kind of sharing with us those three stages? Because I think it actually might be very good to kind of elaborate on that for those listening, and how you're seeing the opportunity in the particular level that you're tapping into.
I think what we are seeing now is because of globalization and fourth industrial revolution, people are much more interconnected. Basically, we have global people in any of the developing countries. So we are targeting these people. They have the same way of thinking. They have the same way of observing the world and looking for opportunity. So we are targeting these people. Beside these people, we have also what we call the urban emerging leaders. They are, people who might not have the English as their first language to connect it, but they are very much integrated with, internet, and they are looking for that process. So we are trying to get these communities in the nations to work together and explore their strengths and collaborate in their limitations. And of course, we also are looking for the third layers, which are the rural context mindset. So I think every country we will see that kind of capacity of working. So we try to find where people are and how they can connect it and integrate it and collaborate for their own business and also for social impact in their nations. So that's what we are working right now.
That's really interesting. Sorry, because I was really fascinated when you mentioned there's a certain way of thinking in these emerging leaders. So would you say, what is that certain way of thinking that with that awareness, it helps you to grow these leaders into the entrepreneurs and greater competency that they desire?
Hey, Jeremy, you touched something that is my passion. We can speak for the whole day here. But basically, I've been specialized in human development, fighting poverty. And I have to do a huge shift in my teaching approach and my contribution approach, because there's a new group of people. And as we know, the whole working marketplace environment is changing quickly. People need to adapt it. So what is happening, especially in the developing nations, people are coming with IQ, cognitive intelligence. So they come from universities, but because the marketplace today, you cannot only rely on your IQ competence, logical skills, professional capacity. You also need to improve or develop your EQ, emotional intelligence. So by developing your EQ, you're going to be able to be, social intelligence, how you communicate, how do you know yourself, how you know people, how you work in collaboration. These are very important skills. And many young people, they are coming out of university without the EQ capacity. EQ also develops your skills on innovative intelligence. How do I think out of the box? How can I redesign myself in new realities that my career might take us? So unfortunately, not everybody are having the opportunity to develop their EQ. So today, Josh, we get three types of people arriving in the marketplace. The privileged one, they do have IQ, cognitive intelligence, and they do have EQ. So those are the ones who are privileged because they can engage with emotional intelligence. They can create ideas. They can help with entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship, bringing innovation to their working place. So everybody wants to work with them, or everybody wants to work for them if you have emotional intelligence and a privilege. But unfortunately, not only in the developing country, a lot also in the most developing countries, we get the no privileged ones. Those people is very sad because they don't have the skills necessary. So they don't have the development in many areas. Some of them, most of them, they are struggle with poverty and no food to eat next day. So that is the no privilege. But even in between these two groups, we get the less privilege. These are the people that we are targeting. So they have some skills, 70% skills, but the 30% missing skills, emotional intelligence and cognitive intelligence, they get into underemployment. And because they are in these developing countries, they don't have a finance structure from family or from the country. So they only have, into the panic button, underemployment, which is a no toxic environment. So that's why we are targeting to how can we help building up emotional intelligence for the less privileged young leaders in these different developing countries.
Yeah, so I'm seeing you saying that the emotional intelligence part is something that's lacking that you're able to bring into the situation. I'm curious, what do you think is the reason why say these less privileged or no privileged communities, what do you think is the reason why that they don't have that EQ, that emotional intelligence?
Well, we can see that we are in an era transition from modern area to postmodern area. We are already taking place in this new context. So everything changed. Part of this trend that leads us from modern to postmodern is the fourth industrial revolution. So in the fourth industrial revolution, we see three core forces moving, make us change, require us to change. Is artificial intelligence, automation comes very fast. That also includes, media technology development. And the second trend is the globalization context. Everybody through communication, they are working in a different way. They are communicating in a different way. That's the big change in our world reality today. And the third one is the mindset, the postmodern mindset, create this borderless way for you to redesign marketplace, redesign career and profession. And people are not, they don't take change easily. So that's why now there is much more required to develop emotional intelligence, because through emotional intelligence, we are able to the core values in coaching, which is, self-awareness, social awareness. I need to see me. What do I need to change? I need to see the environment I am. What does environment requires of change for my company, for my career? And then I need to be self-committed to change it. That is emotional intelligence. And then how I change in an innovative and creative way, that requires another very core element of coaching, and which is part of emotional intelligence. So not only the new emerging leaders, I think everybody needs to be open to redesign themselves in the career, in their marketplace, even community and life and family, because of this major change that we as human beings are going through.
Yeah, I was curious with the changes you said were happening, going from the modern to the postmodern transition, whether it's technological or cultural, globalization, all these things. This might be a bit of a strange question, but is there an area that you're most concerned about, or is there a particular area of transition that you think is what we need to be concerned about most for emerging leaders? Is there a specific part in general that is most?
Thanks, Josh. You are very smart in the way you make my contribution for the conversation easier. Your question is just a continuity of what we are talking here. One of the main need I see in these less privileged emerging leaders, maybe might be some of our audience are going through that, is two very important elements. Create the self-coach and the coaching lifestyle for their development. as an emotionally intelligent person, I need to understand the value of coaching, self-coaching, peer coaching, and professional coaching as yourself. We need that, not because we have a problem we need to solve, because that's the new way to cope with innovation. We cannot see everything that we need to see. We have blind spots, and we need to have professional friends that understand about coaching and they use it as their lifestyle. The second thing is important, Josh, that is related to that is because in the modern era, the way the world was designed, individualism was one of the focus point in modern era. Okay, everything is about me and our working. That's the, how can I say, the dark side of modern era is individualist. So you develop your career by yourself. You're gonna develop a lifestyle of leadership by yourself, and you don't open up. If you have limitations or weakness, you don't show. You don't. In the end of a career or a business, you don't have anybody there to be accountable to help you in the process. So one of the things that younger people are looking for is community, is a entrepreneur community, is a working community that they can exercise peer-to-peer coaching, so they can have brainstorm feedback with people. And of course, you don't open up for anybody. You need to create a trust environment, and coaching help us to define the boundaries and the health environment for that. And that's what the emerging leaders need, is to create this community that they can journey through their careers together. You know, I think that is important.
Jeremiah, feel free to jump in at any time. I know that you're too patient and polite sometimes to just barge in. So at any point, if you want to jump in, please feel free to do so.
I do want to right now. So
yeah, go for it.
Because I believe some of our audience, be it like seasoned audience or first-time viewers, might be from less privileged backgrounds. So say for them hearing the first time, wow, there's an organization that is motivated to grow less privileged leaders, emerging leaders into greatness. And just speaking for them, say if they are thinking like, oh, wow, yeah, I get it, but the circumstances is too hard for me, right? My surroundings, environment are just not that easy for me to get the help or even the courage or even the ability to believe I can do it. So I want to pass the time to Josh as well. Like, well, how would you say to these people for the first time hearing that, hey, there is an organization out there to help people like me, to help me succeed and living out that calling that they are meant to have in their destiny?
Yes, I think Latin Gate is one option. There are several other options of organic community or, professional community who cares for people. That's what we call social entrepreneurship. There are a lot of professionals and organizations that has the purpose is to create sustainability, but also social impact, develop people as they perform their professional, capacities. And I think the element is find them out there, communicate, seek, and you will find it. There are communities that are, or how can I say, in the cutting edge capacity to work together. The most important is don't stay alone. Isolation is not the answer. We need to take a step and to give a call, to connect with somebody. And incubator is one of the process. Coaching is part of incubator, and also there is a whole professional avenue for that process. And one of the very important element for us to develop emotional intelligence, for us to be not only global people, but also people that are part of this new fourth industrial revolution, is collaboration. So the attitude is not just find a community that you can belong and with their intention, what they can do to me. There is a integration here that I can contribute with something, and somebody can contribute with my development. I think community comes from that mentality. I don't want to just pay and just treat me. That's not the process. Even coaching, there is a process of collaboration and integration with one another. And there are the essence of belonging and community in this working context is an attitude of collaboration. One can help another.
Well, I just want to echo back as well, like, the 2 points you mentioned, find yourself in the community. If you want to become a person who's successful, you just got to surround yourself with people who are that, because there's a rubbing effect of influence. That being said, you mentioned about being in the community where people like who you want to be are there, and they can teach you to that success. And second point, you mentioned about collaboration, that initiative to collaborate people, learning from one another to add value to their business or initiative. I do want to ask before I pass the time back to JB as well. It's like, in terms of the emotional intelligence, there are 4 domains, 11 competencies. For viewers who have, for the first time who are listening, there are previous episodes actually on emotional intelligence. So I'm not going to explain much on that. But given the 4 domains, right, say self-awareness, emotional self-management, social awareness, and relationship management, I just want to speak about less privileged leaders who might be struggling with self-awareness. For it, they might be doing pretty well. They're in the program, assuming you have met people like that. They're doing quite well in their social relationship, but somehow they lack the self-awareness, therefore the lack of self-improvement. What would be your tip or tips to leaders like that for them to improve themselves, to become successful in life?
Part of self-awareness and having a good understanding about your purpose and your potential, it does not come out of nothing. You need to creating the right environment, and unfortunately in developing countries, most of the time young people don't have a good incubator at home. Parents should be the facilitator for they to grow into their potential and destiny. But some parents, they don't provide that, unfortunately. And that's where the whole poverty mentality perpetuates, because you learn from home and then you never break that circle. You will repeat what you learned from the past, and then what happened is also when they go to schools, school does not teach how to coach, how to develop your potential, how to see your strength and see your limitations and your weakness. A lot of people, they put in their blind spot because they never access that. Okay, so having a community of coaching, peer-to-peer coaching, master coaches that can create the culture of self-awareness, self-responsibility, smart actions, and a kind of process is the most important. Don't try to do yourself, because there's a lot of times we cannot change an environment by ourselves. We need to collaborate, integrate with people that has the same desire. So then by doing that, then I think is the process, so don't try, to do by yourself. Try to find a community of people that can help you to develop this self-awareness that is necessary. But self-awareness itself is not the end. It has to be, take the momentum of self-awareness to self-responsibility, and then to lead into smart actions that can create, really impact, actions that brings good result.
I love where you guys are going with this, because it's bringing me a few questions I have for you, Joshua, piggybacking off what you and Jeremiah have been discussing. One is about, trying to create that community, because we understand that, you can't do it yourself. So you're trying to find that community, and sometimes you're finding that parents and your family environment may not be able to properly find your strengths or find your weak spots. And even schools aren't always teaching it. And I know that us as coaches, we tend to be those champions saying, hey guys, like, let's come together, let's grow together. But sometimes I do feel like we're a bit of a bubble. At times I do feel like we're a bit of a niche. We're not really the mainstream, but we're more on the outskirts, with maybe leaders and high performers who are the ones who are gravitating towards us. how can you begin to see this movement become more mainstream, where even the average person has that mindset of, I need to get into a community for self-development? So it's not just people on the outskirts, but it's everyone involved. Do you see any path that can make it become more mainstream?
I think when people start to see that they have common needs and common drives, desires, and plan. So I think that's where bring people together. When in any time in the history, when we see humans coming together for a purpose to fight the bad guy, we see movies that kind of okay, everybody get like different movies that we can see. They come and they get together in the same common
Avengers.
goal. Okay, we see
Marvel.
Avengers. Yes, we see Avengers. I see Lord of the Rings. All these things we see, they come from different tribals, but they have a common need and they have a common goal. I think the purpose is not just to work in what I need to improve, but also my contribution that we can move forward. I think that is the essence of community. The essence of a community that make us belong is, what is the cause? How can we do? How can I collaborate? How can people collaborate with mine? I think this proactivity process also is part of that. Once we have a goal, we don't just want to sit and see what is stopping us. Once we have a strong goal, a focus, we will see the obstacles, and we're gonna have to brainstorm ideas how we can go around, but also we see momentum so we can accelerate. I think these are the elements that I can hear. As I mentioned in the beginning, I've been doing this hybrid approach in teaching from Bandung, but we have people from many different islands. We have people from Nepal studying here with us, and from South Africa, Colombia. And next week, we're going to start a whole afternoon classes with people from Burundi, Ethiopia, Sudan, Chad. All are having the same need, but also have the same goal. How can we break this poverty mindset? How can we do different this time? And that's a window of opportunity. Emerging leaders, they have about 1 to 3 years to help them. We cannot do for them. We can facilitate their find outs, their development. We can create the right environment. That is community, so they can change, and then they can run into their destiny, not for themselves, but for the benefit of those that are coming beside them or even behind them.
Jeremiah, I know you have a question, but I wanted to quickly, I think what you said there was so profound, Joshua, because like you said earlier on, our societies tend to drift more towards individualism lately. I would assume more in Western cultures than maybe in other cultures that we're more individualistic here. That being said, when we're doing something just for ourselves, I think that's the time where you only see it go so far, because you won't really see people come together if their goals are self-serving. But I love the point you made that when you have a vision that they can all be a part of, that's when you see that the community can be built. And I think that's something that I think is very struggling in today's day and age. Personally, how I feel that a lot of us are very fragmented in what we believe in as an overarching thing. Like, obviously we share our faith in Christ, and that's our overarching vision, but there's so many different tribes of what's their overarching vision that at times can make it kind of hard for them to come together, even if it can benefit themselves. So I think it's such a powerful thing. It's going to have me thinking a lot about going forward and the things that I'm doing. Jeremiah, you had a question though, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to quote like John C. Maxwell, one of the greatest current leadership expert. He says that successful leaders will always have consecutive problems for consecutive days. In fact, the more influential, successful you are, your organization will face big and small, more challenges ahead. So I'm wondering, say for Josh, say for you, Joshua, that with Latin Gate or the leadership, experience that you had over the years, what are some of the problems that you have faced, and what have you learned in overcoming them that help you become, and your team of leaders become more effective leaders?
All right. I think it's I think is the challenge to bring something new. I think people struggle to embrace the new thing, even though they know that might not work because it didn't work for their parents, didn't work for their context. So they have the challenge. So that is what we are working, is to build that kind of innovation culture that people can come and in a safe way, try the new ways. Everybody wants to move from dependence into independence. That's where the call for the modern era. But we are challenged then to see that independence is not the end. Interdependence is the end.
Oh.
Okay, interdependence. If you see in our biological journey as a human being, we born as dependable, and then we move from dependence into independence. When we grow, we develop our career, we get our job, we get our money, our independence life. If we stay there, it's not going to be the end, So we, in a natural journey of life, we move into interdependence. We get married, we make partnership in business. That's where we start to exchanging. And that is the ultimate purpose for us as personal or professional, is to reach that level of interdependence. We committed to serve another person. There's more pleasure to give than to receive. That is the culture of social entrepreneurship, that we can be in that kind of relationship in our professional ethic way, that we can not only receive, but we give. We don't only get the pleasure of receiving, but also there is pleasure on giving, which is also a biblical principle. There's more pleasure to give than receive. And another big element in this challenge that we are facing is how we unlearn in order to learn new things. That is one of the major challenge, is how do I unlearn things that I need to let it go to embrace the new that God has, that the world needs right now. It's how I redesign myself in this new reality.
Well, I have two quick responses before pass time back to Joshua. Is that first thing, I was reminded 2 years ago that a leadership conference I went to about a sermon that taught about 3 stages of personal growth. The first stage is that you're dependent, meaning you're depending on people for help. The second stage is that you're independent, where you are able to be self-sustaining, do things on your own. The third stage, that you're dependable, that people can depend on you for trust, that you can help them. But I think I love what you just shared, because it's a fourth stage, and that is being interdependable. That is a collaboration, networking, helping out one another, because two are better than one. In fact, you can do so much as a person, but when you have a good team of really leaders with the positive values, the growth, the sky's the limit for the organization. And the second response is that, I'm sorry, this is awkward in the podcast. I'll pass the time back to Joshua.
maybe you'll remember it, and then you can come back to it.
Yeah.
Seeing as we're on this topic of interdependence, right? I think it's very beautiful. I have a lot of friends who they're in business and they have a vision, and the vision is powerful, but there's a fear of opening up and having to be interdependent that makes them fear for what can happen to their baby, being their business or their vision. And I think early on, or maybe not too early on, but kind of early on, I realized that I did not have the capacity to get there on my own. And it allowed me to say, you know what? Someone like Jeremiah, me and him, we met up. I saw that we had the same values. I saw his heart, and I said, I wanted to put my life in his hands. And he, in turn, has also put his life in my hands. And I think it's been a very big blessing for us to have each other, to be honest. I love this guy. But I do know a lot of people have struggle in being able to open up because of fear of what maybe has happened in the past? And this might be a bit of a two-part question. One is, have you seen yourself have to learn to open up more to the team around you to let your vision expand beyond yourself? And secondly, maybe what would you say to those who struggle to open up? How would you actually persuade them or encourage them to be willing to open up and allow the risk of sharing their vision or sharing their life with someone else?
I think you cannot open up for everybody. No, everybody is ready to respond to in a proactive way, in a nice way. So people need to build the right environment, trust environment. One of our first lesson in Latin Gate is you cannot build trust out of nothing. I trust you. No, it doesn't happen like that. You need to bring three very important inner core values, and people will see that. Why do we open more for somebody that we first met first time, or somebody else we cannot? We see three very important core values, peace, justice, and love in the professional thing. So we create the right environment. In that right environment, we develop a rapport. So we build a trust. People open. There is this transparency process. I think it is a process, but is it possible? I think that is very important. And one thing we do also, we have those negative absolute that self-sabotage us when we deal with fear. There is the real fear, but there is this, psychological fear that is not real fear. It's a pathological, element that we create in our minds out of our past experience, traumatic experience that we need to deal. But what happened when we talk about marketplace, fear to take a momentum, to take a step in the career, to take a direction, a new direction for my career, open up a business, escalate my business. That fear, we need to be aware that, we have weakness and limitation.
Yes, please share this. Yes.
And we need to know that even now, if you watch the new, Marvel's movies, you see a lot of limitations in the superheroes, which is different from the modern era. The modern era, they will put, the superheroes are the perfect in their strength, perfect in their relationships, they are not touchable. But now we see that we are more real with our superheroes, and we should be more real with ourselves. We always care in our black side of leadership, in our dark side of leadership is we have limitations and weakness. What are the difference between two? And this is in the modern era, they didn't see the difference because emotional intelligence, self-awareness was not well developed at that time. What the difference is, weakness is something that you were supposed to develop by now, but you haven't. That affects your performance, but limitation is almost the same, but it's not the same. Limitation is what is our boundaries as a human being. Not everybody can do everything. Not everybody has the time to do everything. Not everybody has the energy to do everything. You need to be self-aware, to understand and be humble, to understand this is my limitation. And then what do? You just have a pity party? No, your limitation, you connect it, you partner with people who has different strength that is your limitation. That is the collaboration spirit. What I'm good, Jeremy might not be, so I can complete that part. And for sure, what a Jeremy's strength can complete my limitations. Okay, so how do I deal with my limitation? Be aware of it and do something. What should I do? Collaborate. Surround myself with peer-to-peer and experts that can complete me. That is very important. So that's create a synergy in the group. The second, what about weakness? Weakness is something that you're supposed to do. You are not doing your homework. So you should do something. Take it and do it. Put in a smart way. What we should never ever done is be ashamed of our limitations. Hide our limitations. We need to be good. A good emotional intelligent leader, they will know their strength and they will know their limitations. and they will do something about it.
Yes, yes. Jeremiah, before I pass it back to you, I love that you brought out limitations versus weakness. When you first told me that concept, it blew my mind because we think about trying to develop our weaknesses, and I haven't ever heard anyone bring up the areas that you shouldn't develop because it's simply a limitation versus it's something you should develop because it's a weakness. And sometimes you just got to really reiterate for people to really understand some of the key things that like will take it to the next level in life. You said two things that just stood out to me so much. One is peace, justice, and love. When you're trying to figure out, is this the right person to open up to? Do you find peace in that moment? Do you find justice in that person, in that character, in that place? And do you find love? If you're finding those three things, there's little chance that that's not a safe environment to be in. And I love that because we so many times we either don't trust our intuition, that God-given intuition, say there's no peace here, I should bail. We see that person isn't a just person, they're unjust. Maybe they're not unjust to us, but they're unjust to other people. And then we think to ourselves, oh, it's just to other people. No, whatever happens to other people, eventually that's going to fall back on you. And so I think that's so beautiful. The second thing is with limits versus weakness, actually, I may not have enough time to go into this, but I was curious to know, with trying to figure out the difference between limits versus weaknesses, because you can maybe pound at a wall for a long time thinking this is just a weakness and it's actually a limitation. And how do you know how long you should try at something before you realize, you know what, this is just a limitation rather than this is a weakness? Have you ever thought about that conundrum at all?
Yeah, one of the main difficult in professional performance most of the time is that people, they try to hide their limitations, and they try to, the second way that you can burn out yourself is try to improve your limitation beyond your capacity. And the third is try to pretend and performance out of your limitation and create high expectation. Yes, I can do the job, boss. Yes, we will give you the partner or a customer, and we can't. We overpromise, and then we stress, we get frustrated, we break our networking capacity. Because why? Because we are trying to performance out of our limitation instead of bringing people around. And what should we do? We should be aware of our limitation, partner with those who can. But if I put too much of my time and energy, try to hardly performance out of my limitation, what happened? I don't have energy to perform out of my strength. That is where then I don't have time, I don't have energy, I'm burnout, I'm fatigued for the day, I cannot take anymore. And then instead of focus in what I'm good and performance from that, I'm afraid to people see I focus out of my limitations, and then I don't perform well in my strength because I kill my time and energy try to perform in my limitations.
Wow. I feel like whether you're privileged or less privileged, you need to get into Latin Gate. I think there's some teaching in there that people have to be hearing this. Jeremiah, I know I've been going on forever. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
I'll promise quick as well, like two things. And I remember, I want to share about the analogy I see when Josh was sharing about notes, like weaknesses and limitation. It reminds me of a kid, like, being 6 years old, crying because it's like, he fell down, he cried, it's like, and then he just cried because he hurts, but he didn't pick himself up. That's a weakness that can be a complaining attribute. But for someone who realized that it's a limitation, say for a kid, maybe he cried, he fall down because trying to reach out for something at a tall height that he can't reach for a thing, he'll ask a mom or adult, like, I'm crying because I can't reach it. Can you help me? I think that is a picture that stays with me, like, how do we know when it's a weakness? You can cry about it, but do something. But a limitation is that you do something and you know that you really need help. That brings the beauty of collaboration to greater heights of achievement. And bring in as well, like just now, I love what Josh mentioned about unlearning the toxic mindsets or habits and learning something new. In fact, in emotional intelligence, there's one aspect under emotion self-control, and that is like adaptability. and how do we become more adaptable even in COVID season, is to unlearn the negative or toxic mindsets or even habits that are not workable in the new world, and learn something new, embrace something new, and implement something new, and keep on trying. Even as you fail, keep picking yourself up and keep going, because then the breakthroughs will be guaranteed when there is consistency. So I thought really just want to bang on what Josh said, and it's wonderful, wonderful content. I just love to get into more, but we know there's a time limit for it. I'll pass time back to JB.
Thanks a lot, Jeremiah. Appreciate it. Well, yeah, I think this kind of brings us towards the end of our episode today. Joshua, thank you so much. Every time I speak to you, like you're bringing concepts and ideas that I haven't thought about, and I can tell that you're a very thoughtful person, because everything that we're asking is like you have responses that are robust and well thought out as well. So I can tell you've really been zoned in on these questions. As we begin to head off, though, is there where is the best place for people to reach out to you to learn more about Latin Gate, to learn more about what you're doing in the community? Is there any last words or places that they can reach out to get more involved?
First of all, I just want to thank you, Josh and Jeremiah. You guys are doing an excellent work. We want to promote to our entrepreneurial network here in Southeast Asia. And I think what you are doing is exactly create that community, and I think that's a super, man. You guys are doing very well. And what we want is exactly what we're saying is what we are, performance. We are open for collaboration with, business experts, mentor teachers. If you have a passion to empower the less privileged young leaders, you can join us. You can find us at Instagram, Latin.Gate. That's our address there, and you can just connect with us. We'll be glad to go back to and give more explanation about the training and how can you collaborate and help. You can also be a social investors as we empower these younger leaders. We can give you more information about that. But for you there listening to this podcast, that you might be a less privileged emerging leaders, I'm not just talking about money or country, but you might have something that you feel that you need to, improve. Get in touch to us. I'm sure that we somehow be able to connect you through the Latin Gate training. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And thank you again, Joshua. Appreciate you being here, myself and Jeremiah. Definitely been very blessed by this. In that case, remember, if you truly want to change your life, change the lives of those around you, this is the 100X Dudes podcast. Thanks for listening. Take care, guys. Be awesome.